Hey everybody, what's going on? It's James here, and in this quick video, I want to walk through the difference between absolute returns and relative returns. This idea seems to be lost on a very large percentage of the people who are taking part in the cryptocurrency space, and especially the influencers who are pushing this idea that Bitcoin has been the best performing asset of all time and all this nonsense. If you got in super early on Bitcoin, it has been one of the best performing assets. But if you got in anytime in the last 5 years, that's not necessarily the case. It's all about timing. So if we just go back and use a very random date 5 years ago, so 5 year return, I think for most people, that's a long enough time frame that they think it's a fair pick, but it's short enough that they're not stuck or tied up, for decades of their life. So if we go back 5 years ago, Bitcoin was worth roughly $57,000. It's worth $81,000 plus today. And that's a return of about 41.9%, which is not a bad return. It's 7.3% annualized. Here's the funny thing though. There was a lot of risk involved in that. And the average return of bonds over the last 50 years was about 7%. So basically Bitcoin has been returning about the same percentage as bonds, the long-term average of bonds, obviously. And Bitcoin has done that over the last 5 years, but with much more volatility and much more risk. So it's a very poor risk-adjusted return. Then we have these other indexes like the Nifty 50, which is like the India index, right? 10.5% annual return. It's actually up 64.4% in the same time frame. Bitcoin underperformed it. We have the S&P 500, which is up 74%, not counting dividend reinvestment, which would boost this even further. And that's an annualized return of 11.8%. Again, Bitcoin underperformed. QQQ is up 107%, 15.7% annual. Bitcoin severely underperformed. The Nikkei, I'm not sure how to say that, 225, which is the Japanese index, up 106.5%, 15.6% a year. Bitcoin underperformed. The Chinese or the Shanghai Composite, it's actually only about 3.6%. So that's one area that Bitcoin beat. Congratulations, Bitcoin. Coke, which is just a hand-picked stock. I didn't go out and look for a stock that beat it. It was just so random. I was looking at Coke because it's kind of one of those value bets, like people just drink soft drinks. And this is the bottling company. And it's up 635% in the same time frame, a 47% annualized return. It smoked Bitcoin. Then you have SMH, which is the semiconductor stock that a lot of people, or the ETF, a lot of people are excited about. It's up 332%, which is 34.5%. Again, it's absolutely smoked Bitcoin. Much less risk involved in this. Nvidia, same thing. This is, an AI bet for those people that were smart and smarter than me, by the way. I didn't think about Nvidia being a winner in the AI thing. I didn't really invest in Nvidia. But it's up 1,113% over the last 5 years. So it's an annualized return of 60%. And then AMD is another, of course, chip stock, GPU company, and CPUs as well. They're at 356%, so 35.5%. To put this in perspective, to make this crystal clear, in order for Bitcoin to have matched the returns of Nvidia over the last 5 years, it would need to be worth roughly $696,000 per Bitcoin today. It doesn't make Bitcoin evil. It doesn't make Bitcoin bad. It just means that Bitcoin has severely underperformed the winning stocks or the winning ETFs in the market. It has only done, quote unquote, as well as it has because it's riding the coattails of a macro bull market. And so when somebody's on social media saying, put your life savings in Bitcoin or go all in on Bitcoin, I saw an influencer today with around 15,000 followers, telling people that they were actually dumb as F if they weren't investing in Bitcoin. And look at his little bio. He joined in mid-2023. And it's like, my guy, since 2023, Bitcoin has not outperformed hardly anything of value. But there he is saying that, and the data just does not back it up. This does not mean that Bitcoin can't go higher. It doesn't mean that Bitcoin can't have a good absolute return. So maybe Bitcoin goes from 80,000 today to 250,000 in the future. I'm not looking for that to happen, but maybe it happens. But unless that's a bigger return than the rest of the market, it doesn't make it the best asset. You have to look at the relative performance. What will SPY be worth? What will QQQ be worth? What will, other individual assets be worth? And I know a lot of people who watch this channel, if they haven't been following me for a long time, especially, they think, well, James is just a bear. He's always a bear. He never has anything bullish to say. But it's not the case. I mean, this is something that I posted inside of, my private Discord back on May 1st. At 12:53 in the afternoon. I mentioned that Bitcoin was trying to test the gap, the CME gap, and that if this was, pure TA, I'd be long. I went on to say it doesn't mean anything in the macro picture because it doesn't, but bears better wake up before the bulls steamroll them. Now, at the time, Bitcoin was trading down around, I believe it was $78,945. So since then, it's pumped a couple $1,000. Nothing too major, but it's not that I'm always bearish. On the shorter time frames, I do see opportunities. On the swing trades and stuff, you can be long even in a bear market sometimes. I'm talking macro viewpoints in these videos. I'm talking about what I think is happening long term with Bitcoin. Bitcoin's relative performance has been quite terrible compared to the market the last 5 years. Some people are going to say, well, you're cherry picking data. You're using, Bitcoin when it's down, 30, 40% from its highs. That's a fair critique of this position that I have. But even if we doubled, let's say that Bitcoin was worth $150,000 today. If Bitcoin was worth $150,000 today, its annualized return would be about 21%, which would slightly be fairly be outperforming the QQQ, the Nikkei 225, the S&P 500, yes, but it would still sorely be underperforming, the semiconductors, the AI stocks like Nvidia, AMD, even Coke. There's lots of stocks that it would still be just absolutely falling out of the bed against. And that's if Bitcoin was sitting at an all-time high of $150,000 right now. Bitcoin was the play back 10 years ago. If you got involved with Bitcoin 10 years ago, you were early and you really reaped the rewards of that early adopter status. I bought my first full Bitcoin at $1,650 a Bitcoin. I got early adopter status. I was able to cash in on that. I was able to quite literally change my financial outlook in life through Bitcoin. Some of it through trading, but some of it just being early. I wish that was still the case. And the reason that I wish that was still the case is because, guys, I would love to take the amount of money that I'm sitting on today and be able to do what I did 10 years or 9 years ago, right? Be able to invest it and watch it go up 1,000%. That would be amazing to me because it would make me, quite wealthy. So I have no reason to root against it. I just don't see it. The asymmetric bet has been played out, and I shared on social media, because oftentimes people are like, well, you missed the boat, so you're angry, you're upset, or whatever. No, at my peak, just Bitcoin, I was holding around 24 Bitcoin. And now I hold less than 1 Bitcoin, quite a bit less than 1 Bitcoin, like very, very small amount of Bitcoin. I don't believe in it. I just don't. Most of the Bitcoin that I had remaining after the 2021 market, most of that Bitcoin I sold up around $115,000 cost average. And I just have no intentions of buying that back unless, the Bitcoin falls drastically and the asymmetric bet returns. Again, I'm not saying that Bitcoin can't go up in absolute value. I'm just saying that there's other places that I personally feel like I could park my money that would perform just as well or better with less volatility and less risk. All that being said, of course, I'm still some guy sitting in a spare bedroom and I've been wrong before. I guarantee I'll be wrong again. So you should always go out and do your own due diligence and seek out professional financial advice from a licensed financial advisor for making any type of investment in cryptocurrency, the stock market, precious metals, Forex, or any other tradable assets. Please use proper risk management. Remember to trade safe. Remember to give this video a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and leave me a comment letting me know your thoughts on Bitcoin.